All right, somehow or other we got stopped. So let's start again. Here we go. Ready? Yes. We had a problem in the connection. So never too late to start again. Here we go. So this is how you divide up the land of Israel. We're talking about dividing the land of Israel. The Jewish people are now standing on the border. They're about to come in, and Moses is not going to go in with them. He said, okay, this is how we divide up the land. The bigger tribe gets the bigger area. The smaller tribe gets a smaller area. It says, even though that the tribe that had more population, a bigger number, they got a bigger part. And so it means that the areas weren't going to be equal. But nevertheless, and so then, therefore, it was pretty easy to do. He just gave whoever was the biggest tribe, he got the biggest area of land. But nevertheless, they did it according to lots. How did the lots work? The lots were also according to Ruach HaKodesh. That wasn't enough. Also, Elazar HaKohen, he would announce with Ruach HaKodesh which tribe would get which portion. So he asked what type of Ruach HaKodesh was it. We already knew the numbers. We took already a survey, and we knew how many people there are in each tribe. And according to that, that's all big. That's the biggest portion of the size of the land you get. So it says like this. I'll tell you, it goes like this. Elazar Kohen, he would put on. So this is not going to be logical. This whole thing. Elazar Kohen, that's already a little bit illogical because usually the only one to wear the breastplate was Aaron, but in this case it was Elazar, Aaron's son. He put on this breastplate, and he would say, with Ruach HaKodesh. Now the breastplate, this is with the different 12 different precious stones in it, according to each one according to one of the tribes, and it was folded over. It was folded over so that the stones were on the outside, but it was folded so that it was like doubled over inside. And inside of that fold, they put like a card that was written this holy name on it, some sort of a name, Kabbalistic name of God, and that was written there, and that would activate this what's Holy Spirit. So he would say the Holy Spirit like this: if the tribe of, let's say, Menashe comes up now, we're going to see there's going to be a lottery. It's going to come in my hand. Then area number 5, then number 5 will go to him. Okay, so the names of the tribes were written on 12 cards. And there were another 12 cards that were written, the areas, what it was, area number 1, area number 2. I don't know exactly what they wrote on the card, but it was, from that it indicated which area they would get. So they would mix them up in a box or 2 boxes. The Nasi, the leader of each tribe, would put his hand in, and he would take out 2 cards. It seems to here that it was just all 12, all 24 were put into one box. He would pull out 2 randomly. He would pull out 2 cards. In one hand would come the name of his tribe, magically, right, miraculously. And on the other one would be the area that was already assigned to him. Good. So here we have already 2 very strange things, 3 strange. First of all, the bigger tribe got the bigger land. The smaller one got the smaller land. Right? There was already decided the 12 areas were already delineated. And it was already known which tribe would get which one. Whichever tribe was the biggest, it would get the biggest or the most fertile, whatever land. So that was known. But it wasn't enough. Elazar would stand there and he would say, I am now going to put 24 cards in this box. 12 of them have names of tribes. 12 of them have the areas. If the tribe of Menashe comes up, then he gets this area. Okay, come, leader of Menashe, pick 2 cards from the box. He picks up 2 cards. Miraculously, one of them is his name, and the other one is the area. He could pick out 2 cards, and both of them would be areas, or both of them with somebody else's names. But never it came out his name. Good enough, right? No. The card itself, the goral, the lot, would yell out, and it would say, I am the lot of the tribe of Menashe, and I came from this such and such a area from the such and such a tribe. But I am the lot, and I have come up for this tribe, for this, like it says, Al Pi Hagaral. It says that it was divided up according to the mouth of the lot that was drawn of the card. But notice Chalko Eretz B'mida, but it was not divided according just to measures. In other words, if I had a bigger tribe, I didn't get a bigger area of land. Why? Because there's sometimes if you get a bigger area of land, let's say that's all rocky. So who needs it, right? What can you do with it? So I get, let's say, 15 square miles of desert, and somebody gets, like 15 square miles of Sahara Desert, and another person gets 1 square yard in the middle of Manhattan or someplace. So in the middle of Manhattan, it's worth, like, I don't know, $1 billion, how much 1 square yard is worth. And in the middle of the Sahara Desert, it's worth absolutely nothing. So therefore, the land was not divided up according to the size. Because some land is better than others. Ella b'shuma, it was estimated. Beit Kura connected Beit Sa'atov, a huge, let's say, like an acre, a bad acre, compared to a good, let's say, square yard. Everything is according to the value. Here we go. Ach b'goral, but in lots, land will be divided up according to the tribes. Okay, let's do this a little bit. It says according to the tribes of their fathers. Okay, now how are we going to divide this up, the land up? Are you going to divide it according to the people that left Egypt? Or maybe you're going to divide it according to the number of people that go actually into the land of Israel. So let's say that there were 3 generations altogether. There were the people who left Egypt, and then they have children, and then they have their children. So there's grandchildren. So the people are coming into Israel now. Those are like the grandchildren of the people who left Egypt. So how are we going to do it? A person that leaves Egypt, let's say he has 2 children, and each one of those 2 children also, they have children. So how are we going to divide this up? So it goes like this. Watch. Shina Kasuv Nachalazu Mikola Nachalot. This is different from all of the other inheritances in the Torah. And I hope we get to it today. Here's going to be the laws of inheritance. Up to now, we don't know the laws of inheritance. Up to now, the laws of inheritance are, if a person dies and he has male children, they receive his inheritance. If he doesn't have male children, big problem. We don't know who to give it to. And that's going to be, we're going to see with the daughters of Tzlafchad, Odmeat. Anyway, so it says, anytime usually that there is an inheritance in the Torah, the living people inherit the dead people. That's an inheritance, right? Somebody dies, he leaves his properties and his money to his relatives. But here the dead inherit the living. How is that? There's 2 brothers that come out of Egypt. They were 2 brothers, right? Reuven and Shimon. Shohelam Banim, and they also have children that come into the land of Israel. Here it seems to me that it's talking about they have grandchildren. Lezeh Echad, Ulezeh Shlosh. Let's say the 2 to Reuven and Shimon, they got out of Egypt, and they have children that go into the land of Israel. Reuven has 1 child. Shimon has 3 children. Echad natal chelek echad. One gets 1 portion, and the other one, and the 3 children, they get 3 portions. So if so, it comes out that, like it says, Leila techalek at the oretz. So in other words, if you divide according to the people that come into the land of Israel, so therefore, you go according to the people that come into the land of Israel. So we have 4 portions, right? You divide whatever, everything is, for instance, in our case, 4 portions, according to the number of people that come into the land of Israel. Chazran nachalatan etzel avi avihem. It goes back to their grandfather. The chalku akol b'shava, and everybody gets equally. Okay, so like in our case, let's not take Reuven and Shimon. That's a little bit confusing. So you have Shmerel and Beryl. Shmerel and Beryl, they're both, let's say, from the tribe of Reuven. They're both the tribe of Reuven. And Reuven, let's say, from the tribe of Reuven, comes out one person from Egypt. A person comes out from Egypt, and his name is Jack, right? Yaakov. Yaakov comes out, and Yaakov has a son. His son is Yaakov has a son. His son is, let's say, Tuvia, right? Yaakov has a son. His name is Tuvia. He has two sons. One is called Tuvia, and the other one is called Shmuvia. Okay, so we have Yaakov comes out of Egypt, and he has two sons, Tuvia and Shmuvia. Tuvia has one son, Shmuvia has three sons. Now we have four boys coming into Egypt, coming into Israel, and each one should get a portion, right? Yeah, each one gets a portion. But how big of a portion do they get? Whose portion do they get? So it says, well, they get, one inherited Tuvia, so he gets one portion. One inherited his father, Shmuvia. So if so, they have to divide that half, right? Shmuvia's part, they have to divide that into three. So it ends up that Tuvia's son gets a portion that's three times as big as the three sons of Shmuvia, because they're going according to their father, right? It says, yeah. It says, now what they do is you go back to the original one. You go back to the father, Yaakov, you go to the father, what was the father that got out of Egypt? That father that got out of Egypt is, now you start to divide everything up equally. So it ends up that it's not that one of the children that goes into Egypt inherits his father, and the other three, they have to divide their father's portion. No, you go back to the original one that went out of Egypt, and so it ends up that all of them get an equal portion. So in other words, the people that went out of Egypt, their children had no say. Only their grandchildren. So the grandchildren, how many grandchildren they have that went into Egypt, right? Those grandchildren, they divide up equally the portion of the one that left Egypt. Not their father, but the grandfather. That's what it says. L'shemot matot avotam yinchalu. She'achar shenatlu abanim. That after the grandsons took their portion according to their fathers that came out of Egypt, they took it not from their fathers, but they take it from their grandfather that left Egypt. But if you would have divided it up according to the number of people who left Egypt, as loya notlim elu adalid ela shnei chalakim, they would only get two portions. V'achshav notlu dalid chalakim. So what do we have in the beginning? Two brothers. That's how we started off. Two brothers leave Egypt, and each one of those has one child. And now each one, those two children that they have, one has three children and one has one. So it says, therefore, it goes back to the original portion that they had when they left Egypt, and not according to what their fathers had. According to, Ach b'garal, Yatsu Yeshua b'kelev, that says Yeshua b'kelev would not get a portion. They got a special portion. They did not get there according to the Goral. And so it is also that Kalev, he got Chevron. Like I said before, Moshe said, because remember, Kalev, he went to Chevron to pray at the graves of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, so that he wouldn't go be affected by the spies. For Omar al Pi Hashem, Natnu Lata'ir Asher Sha'al, he got the city of Hebron, especially he got Motar Avosam. This excludes converts and servants. They didn't get a portion in the land of Israel. Apiyal Goral, according to the like we said, the Goral, the lot itself would speak, like I explained. So this comes out to tell you that it was all divided up according to what's called a Holy Spirit. That's why it says Al Pi Hashem. So we see that everything was like, even though that all the tribes got according to the number of people, but we see that God agreed with the whole thing because the whole thing was also conducted according to very big miracles as well. Okay, these are the Levites. This is going to go quickly. These are the Levites. Up to now, we did not count Levi. We counted all the other 12 tribes because we counted Manasseh and Ephraim separately. And we're going to see Manasseh is going to have a big portion over here, a big part in the story that's going to come up. But in any case, we did not count Levi. Levi, so to speak, when the tribe of when Joseph was divided up into two, so that meant there were 13 tribes. There were two tribes. Joseph was divided into two. So whenever it says there were only 12 tribes. So it says there were 12 tribes that got portions in the land of Israel. Levi did not get a portion in the land of Israel. They got 48 cities. They got 48 separate cities, and they didn't have a special job. Their job was to work in holy things. Okay, now let's count the Levies. There was Gershon, Kahat, and Merari. These are the families of Levi. Levi, Mishpachat Livni, Mishpachat Chevroni, Mishpachat Machli, Mishpachat Hamushi, Mishpachat Karchi, and Korach. He gave birth to Amram. I'm sorry, Korchi, Korchi and Kahat. Kahat. He gave birth to Amram. Kahat gave birth to Amram. What does it say that for? If there's missing over here Shimi and Azrieli, and it's just making it's not telling all of the tribes. Nevertheless, the main one we're interested in is the tribe of Kahat. Kahat Gershon, Kahat, Gershon, Kahat, and Merari. Right? Those were the direct sons of Levi. Kahat, he gave birth to Amram. The name of the wife of Amram was Yocheved. Yocheved was the daughter of Levi. So Amram got married to his own father's sister, his wife. Asher Yolda Otav LeLevi b'Mitzrayim v'Teled LaAmram, and Amram with Yocheved, his aunt, got married to Aaron and Moshe and Miriam Achotam. They were born in Egypt. They weren't born, I'm sorry. B'Mitzrayim. His wife and his children were born in Egypt. They were born in Egypt, but they were not conceived of in Egypt. When they came into the walls as Yocheved, she was given birth to. She was given birth. And she completed the number of 70. Because if you count them, you'll only see that there's 69 people that went into Egypt. The 70th one, when they went into Egypt, was Yocheved. Aaron and Nadav Aaron gave birth to 4 sons: Nadav, Avihu, Elazar, and Itamar. Now there's a question that's asked: how can a man is not allowed to marry his own aunt? A person can't marry his aunt. A girl can marry her uncle, but it can't marry. So there's various answers that are given to that question. Nevertheless, it's a question. Okay. So it was a different mother or whatever. So Aaron gave birth to Nadav and Avihu, we said they already died when they made the strange sacrifice in front of God. Remember, they went into the holy temple on the first day it was opened without proper preparation. Okay, how many Levites were they all together? There were 23,000, all the men from 1 month and above, because they weren't counted among the Jewish people because God didn't give them a portion among the Jewish people. So therefore, they were not counted for 20 years old. What's the reason? Because God didn't give them a portion of the land. The people that got counted 20 years old, Hayu B'nai Nachalad. This was only the people that inherited actual land. And we said that, if you remember, we said before, these were the people that were 20 years old at the time of the counting. If they became 20 years old after this counting, they weren't counted. They didn't get a portion of the land of Israel. Okay, so these are the counting, the survey of Moshe and Elazar Kohen, that they counted all the Jewish people in Arvot Moab. Arvot Moab is like right on the other side of the Jordan River. Yarden Yericho, they're about to go into Jericho, which is the first place. From all these people, there was not one person, Ish, Mipukadei Moshe Aaron Kohen, Asher Pokduas Ben Israel B'Midbar Sinai. There was none of them. Let's see what it means. It means all of these people, these were all the people that were, this is a new generation. None of these people were among the people that were counted when Moses left Egypt. They all died because of the refusal to go into the land. So it says, in all these, there was not a man, Ish, but all the women, interestingly enough, they did not die in the desert. Must have died regular deaths, but nevertheless, it could be that there were women that left Egypt and they were more than 20 years old and they lived past the years of 60, because none of the men lived past the years of 60. They all died to 60. So everyone that left Egypt that was counted from 20 years and up, all those people, anyone who was under 20 years old lived, because only people 60 years old and over died. So those people who were under 20 years old, they lived, they could get into the land of Israel, but they weren't counted. They weren't counted. Only people that were 20 years older were counted. It says, therefore, everyone who was 20 years old and older, they died, men, only the men. But the women, it could be that there were women that were a lot older. Let's say a woman that was 40 years old at the time, and she lived 40 years. She was 80 years old when she came in. That was okay. There was no decree. Why? Because they loved the land of Israel. The men said, "Not no Rosh Hashanah Mitzrayim." The men always were saying, "Let's pick a new head and let's go back to Egypt." And the women, they said, "Tanu lanu achuzah." We're going to see in a minute. They said, "We want a land." Therefore, we're going to get this story about Tzlafchad. We're going to get Tzlafchad in 1 second. Here we go. Ready? Because God said, "Mot yamutu b'midbar," because God said, "Okay, you Jews, remember the spies came back from Israel." And they said, we can't go in. And all the people said, they're right. We don't want to go into Israel. So God said, okay, so you won't go to Israel. You'll all die in the desert. The only ones that were left was Kalev ben Yefuna and Yoshua ben Nun. And of course, Moses was also left, but he didn't go into the land of Israel. He died before he was part of the generation. He died with the complainers. Only Kalev ben Yefuna and Yoshua ben Nun, they're the only ones that left, men, from those who left Egypt, they were over 20 years old, and they entered into Israel. Everyone else who was more than 20, they died in the desert. Okay, now the land of Israel is divided up. Everybody is very happy. They're a new generation, a new spirit, and they're going to go into the land of Israel and take it over. They're not afraid. They're going to have to fight. They're going to have to fight battles for 7 years, but they don't care. They're all fired up. But Tikrav Banot Tzlafchad, there come the daughters of Tzlafchad. Who is Tzlafchad? Who are these five daughters? They were the daughters of Chefer. Who was Chefer? He was the son of Gilad. Who was Gilad? He was the son of Machir. Who was Machir? Machir was the son of Menashe. He came from the tribe of Menashe ben Yosef. And these are the names of the daughters, Machla, Noah, Chagla, Milka of Tirza. A little bit of a different order than what we had before. We had these four. It says, why does it say? It already said that they're the daughters of Menashe, but it's come to tell you that the Yosef, because why did it have to tell you that they were the sons of Menashe? They were in the family of Menashe, that was the tribe, the son of Yosef. Everybody knows the tribe, the Menashe was the son of Yosef. Why tell you this? Because Yosef, he very much, right? Yosef, the son of Jacob, he very much loved the land of Israel. Like he said, like when he said, I'm dying in Egypt, but please, when you leave Egypt, there's going to come a savior, and he's going to save you all. Moses, he's going to take all the Jews out of Egypt. And when he does, take my bones out with him. Ubenotav, and these daughters, they also loved the land of Israel. Like it says, we want a portion. To tell you that they were all righteous. Why to tell all these names? Because they were all righteous. That anyone in the Torah, that his deeds and the deeds of his fathers were not written, and we didn't know if they were good or they were bad. And it tells you one of them was good, right? It lists a whole list of names. This person, the son of this person, the son of this person. Who are these people? Nobody knows who they are, right? Who is Chafer? No. Who is Gilad? I don't know. Who is Machir? I don't know. It says Menashe. No, Menashe, I guess he was okay, but he was the son of Yosef. Now, Yosef, we know for sure, he was a tzaddik and he loved the land of Israel. So if all these people we don't know are written, but we do know one person, then that comes to show that if his name was mentioned along with all these, and it didn't have to be mentioned, it's coming to tell you something. Namely, that just as he was righteous, so all of these people were righteous. Similarly, we can see as Shabbat, Harizeh tzaddik, so it means that they must be all tzaddikim. And conversely, the other way, if like Yishmael ben Netanya ben Elishama, we know that all of them were evil people. Okay, who is this Elisha? Who is this? I'm sorry, Yishmael. Yishmael, that was a Jewish guy. He was the person that he killed Gedaliah. When Nebuchadnezzar destroyed the land of Egypt, the land of Israel, and he destroyed the temple, and he took all the Jews to Babylon. So he left some Jews behind, the poor Jews, so that they would work on the land, so that the land wouldn't become just overrun. So there was and he left a person, a very holy person called Gedaliah, and he was like the leader of the Jews. These poor, terrible Jews, a few Jews were still left there in the suffering in the land of Israel that had just been destroyed and emptied out almost by Nebuchadnezzar. But there were still Jews there, several thousand, that they were still working on the land. And whoever it is, this fellow Yishmael, he came and he killed him. He had his political motivations, whatever, and he killed him. So the Torah tells us over there, it's right in the end of the book of Kings. Yishmael, he killed him, and it tells us who was his father and who was his grandfather. What do you care who his grandfather is? It's coming to tell you, Bedusha, Kol and his grandfather, all of them were also evil people. So it says, Machla, Noah, it says there, who are they? They are Machla, Noah, Chagla, Milka, Tirza. Later on, it's going to have a little bit of a different order. It's going to say, Machla. What do we have over here? Machla. Here it says Machla, and Tirza is the last one. Later on, it's going to list them, and Tirza is going to be number 2. Why? So to tell you that that they're all equal. The order was not important, right? Therefore, it's not important. Just to let you know that they're all righteous. Okay, I would like to do some of these explanations, but we haven't got time. Okay, but Tamod Lifnei Moshe, so they stood in front of Moses, in front of Aaron, and in front of the other leaders, and they started, and they said, so it says, Lo amdu lifneim ela b'shanat arboim. This was right before they went to Israel, after Aaron died. It says they stood in front of Elazar. Why Elazar? It says because Aaron already died. So that also explains why Elazar put on the breastplate, because his father had passed away. And in front of Moshe, And then afterwards, they stood in front, it says that they stood in front of Moshe and then in front of Elazar. We can say that what they stood in front of Moshe. What did he have to stand? If Moses didn't know, then Elazar knew. But okay. Anyway, some people say that it really should be the other way around, and some people say, okay, different answers. And they said like this: our father died in the desert, and he was not one of the sinners that went against God with Korach, because he died with his own sin, and he didn't have any sons. Okay, what's going on over here? It says, lomar, because they wanted to say that he died with his own sin. He died with his own sin. So they had to make it clear that he did not die. He wasn't one of the people that were complaining against Moses, and he wasn't one of the people of Korach that they rebelled against Moses and against God. But he had his own individual sin that he had to die early, and not the sin of others. What was it? There's an argument. Rabbi Yishmael says that the father, that the Tzlafchad, who he was the father, why did he die? He says because he was the one that was the Makoshesh Eitzim. Remember, he was the one that was gathering up the wood. And some people say that he gathered up the wood because he wanted everyone to see the importance of Shabbat. Therefore, he deliberately transgressed Shabbat so that he would be killed, and everyone would see the severity and the importance of Shabbat. That's what Rabbi Akiva said. Rabbi Shimon said he was a Mapilimoya. After the spies came back and said, we can't go into the land of Israel, and they convinced all the Jewish people, and they said, we're not going to. So there was a group that they said from Ephraim, and they said, we're going up. And Moses said, don't do it. He said, no, we want the land of Israel. We're not one of these people. And he said, no, the time has passed. Don't go up. I'm telling you, it's not good. And they went up and they all got killed. It says the Amalekites came and they killed him. So he was one of those. Okay, so let's just get quickly. So they said, Lama yigara Shem Avinu mitoch mishpachto. Why should the name of our father get wiped out from his family? Just because he hasn't got any son? Tanu lanu achazah, we want a portion in the land of Israel in the place of the brothers of our father, right? Our father had brothers, Tzlafchad had brothers. You want to tell me that all of his brothers are going to inherit the land from our father and we won't get anything? We'll just have to wait around to see if somebody's going to marry us. So what should we do? So it said, Vayikrav Moshe, so Moshe, he took this case in front of God. He didn't know what the law was. Moses didn't know what the law was. This was Moses as a punishment for Moses because he took a crown for himself and he said, anyone who has any hard problems, bring them to me. We'll see later on, it talks about this. Anyway, he says, really, this Torah should have been said by means of Moses, but the daughters of Tzlafchad, they got meritorious. If you remember, this whole Torah portion is called Pinchas for the same reason. It starts off that last week that the Jewish people were doing the sin, and Moses didn't know how to remember Zimri with Zimri, the head of the tribe of Shimon. He took this non-Jewish woman and had relations with her in front of everybody, and Moses just suddenly didn't know what to do. And all of a sudden, Pinchas jumped in. He says, why didn't Moses know what to do? To give reward to Pinchas. And it's the same thing over here. Moses suddenly didn't know what the law was, and this was to give reward, that's it says, to the daughters of Tzlafchad, that this law would be written by means of them. In other words, up to now, Moses didn't know the law. So God says back to him like this, Cain, son of Tzlafchad, they're speaking the truth. Cain means truth. Natanti ten lem, they has to get a portion, and with the brothers, and it's with their uncles, the brothers of their father, and the part of their father will go with him. So let's say this Tzlafchad, he had 3 brothers. Let's say 3 brothers. So what do they want to do? What did the daughters of Tzlafchad? They were afraid that only males inherited. So if their father died and didn't have any children, didn't have any male children, so that's it. Their portion, his portion, will be divided among his brothers. Right? The brothers were. So he said, no, that's not how it's going to go. The law is going to be like this. to the Jewish people, tell them the laws of inheritance. A person, if he dies and he doesn't have any son, so his properties go over to his daughter. What if he hasn't got any daughters? Then it goes over to his brother. Now, this is really not true. The fact is, if a person dies and he hasn't got any sons or daughters, then his father inherits. His father inherits him. And if his father has already died, then we start the whole process over again. His father is dead, so then it goes to the sons of his father. And if his father didn't have, namely the uncles of these, the sons of his father. And if his father doesn't have any sons, then it goes over to his daughters. And if they haven't got any, then it goes back to his father's father. And if his father's father is not alive, so then it goes to his father's sons and daughters. Sons first and daughters. So it is. That's how it goes. If he hasn't got a daughter, then it goes over to the brothers of the departed father. Like I said, that's really not so. It goes over to his father. And if he hasn't got any brothers, then it goes over to the brothers of his father. Right? La'achi aviv. V'im ein lo bat, then it goes over to the brothers of the father. What if the father hasn't got any brothers? Then it goes over to the father's sons of his father. I'm sorry, one second. Again. So I just read it wrong. A person, when he dies and he hasn't got a son, so it goes over to his daughter. If he hasn't got a daughter, then it goes over to his brothers. If there are no if he hasn't got any brothers, then it goes over to the brothers of his father. If there are no brothers to his father, then it goes over to the next male that there is, or the next female that there is. Okay, so it goes like this. A person that dies, if he has sons, it goes to the sons. If he's got daughters, right? If he has no sons, then it goes over to his daughters. If he has no sons or daughters, then it goes, let's say the daughters died, so then it goes to the sons of the daughters, right? The sons of the daughters, or the next generation down. If there's no generations, let's say a person dies and he had no children whatsoever, so it goes back to his father. If his father doesn't live, then it goes to his father's sons, namely the brothers of the goes back to then it goes to the sons of so then it goes to the brothers. So that's the way it goes. The family goes in a way of, we have the father, his sons. If there's no sons, then it goes to the father of the father. Then if not, then it goes to the sons of the father, namely the uncles of the departed. If he's got no uncles, then it goes back up to the father of the father and the father, etc. And that's how it goes. That's how okay, God says to Moses, go up on this mountain and see the land of Israel that I gave to the land of Israel, to the Jews. You'll see it and you're going to die. Just like Aaron, your brother, died. Just like, why? Because you disgraced my name with the water. You struck the rock, you should have spoken to the rock. And these are the main Merivas Kodesh. God is announcing to Moses that the Jews are going to go into the land of Israel and he's not going to go in with them. Have a good day with Mashiach now, good day with Mashiach now. God willing, tomorrow we'll learn the Pirkei Avot as well. Shalom uvracha.